Hi there, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Beneath the Live Tower. My name's Charles McGilvray, as always, I'm joined by Jess Keble and Simon Stacey. We're a fans podcast by fans for fans of Northampton Saints. How you both doing?
Good, thank you.
I'm good, thank you, mate.
Good. Bit experience in the cold weather.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that won't go down as one of the in the records of epics, will it? But freezing cold, damp day, bad result, first loss of the season as well. We didn't mention that, but yeah, it was not on the scale because there was some great players out there, but it was men against boys because Newcastle sent a pretty strong team, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like, I don't have an issue with that. I think each team uses it as to get the best out for themselves, and so we clearly use it as an opportunity to give players opportunities. To want some players to develop and get better, some players to come back from fitness, as we can discuss, some players to sort of they're not getting a looking, so to push their case for selection in the bigger game. So every team uses it differently, but Newcastle, I was about to say Falcons, but I mean Red Bull, they obviously look to try and get some momentum and some wins under the belt, etc., because it's a tough ask for them in the Prem. So, what do? Send a bunch of kids where they haven't necessarily got that second string depth like we have and get beat, and then every team loses, and it's no good for anyone, is it? So,
No, I get that. I do get that.
And I would point out, though, to be honest with you, I thought first half the team largely matched them / looked better. The big significant piece for me was Tony Bellew going off injured.
Exactly what I was going to say. The importance of a good 10 on the pitch, man. It's like literally when he went off, we didn't have a 10 in place. It was just like, yeah, that's the game gone now. It was so, like you just said, chalk and cheese. It was crazy.
Yeah. I think, well, before we had structure and we were putting players in place, etc., he went off and it was a bit of a mess, really.
Yeah. It looked like hamstring as well. I'm not sure if it's come out, what's happened. He was he was tapping the back of his thigh as he was near the bench. So.
It was a hamstring strain. So I have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think it was sort of married with the fact that they were always going to take Ferbs and Slights off, and so you've always used replacements there as well. Like they were always coming off early. That was like a pre-planned. What was it? Half an hour for Ferbs and the first half for Ollie. Yeah. And so you've already used two people there. Then you lose Tony. So James has to come on as 10, and you have to move a few. There's just a lot of moving pieces, really, in the start of that second half. You just lose all your momentum, don't you, when different things happen? And then I think they got two interception tries. It just kind of took. That was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back, as it were. It just kind of took every last kind of bit that they had sort of out of them at that point, and then it's really hard to. And like I said, like coupled with like the weather and the fact that they knew that they were going to struggle without a 10, I think it was just everything just kind of disappeared from them really at that point. They just couldn't get back. They just really couldn't get back on like any kind of level playing field. So it was disappointing, but yeah, I don't really put any blame anywhere, to be honest. Like you said, we've used it specifically for people coming back from injury, so they're not. We always knew that Ferbs and Slights were never playing a full game. Like you said, I was sort of expecting that they'd go off when they did, and so yeah, you just. You use two replacements and then you get this injury, and it's one of those things. Like you said, Newcastle are going to go strong. I don't blame them for that either. Like at the end of the day, this is probably what they're targeting. So there's not like too much they can do from that perspective, really.
Yeah, exactly. It was an uphill task, and you got to say, what's the purpose of the tournament? It's always nice to get a few wins and keep the momentum going across the club, etc. But then you say the players that played in that fixture who had to play against better quality players in terms of Newcastle would have learned an awful lot to get off that. It's almost a better scenario. Like you're not playing a team that's going to completely humiliate them and not be able to compete, and then no one benefits. You're playing against Newcastle, let's be brutally honest, are not a great side at the moment. They're a long way from getting to where they're going to be eventually, I think. It's a long process for them, and therefore the standard is what it is. But it means that we can send, you know, a young side against them, and they get a good level of competition to get that understanding of what that step up is to the next level. And I think it showed there are levels, aren't there? There are levels to the game, and that was evident. But like I said, they weren't far off until they lost that piece of structure. You know, that bit of experience and the pivot role, sort of put amends to everything, really.
You can't blame Newcastle either, because we've done it in the past. We've won it twice, have we? I think the year we won it, like the final, it was literally not far off a full strength side, wasn't it? So so it is what it is. You can use it for what you need to, and literally at the moment they're getting absolutely battered in every Premier League match, or just not getting any points. So they just want some momentum, like you said, and a chance to get a win on the board. And fair play, they did that. Like you said, until Tony Bellew went off, we were in that game. It was just so obvious that we didn't have a 10 at 10. It was just, there's nothing against anyone that went in there. I think Pater stepped in and then James came on. And it's just like, just that. That's why 10s earn the high bucks, because that's where the magician works, isn't it? And you can see the quality of him. Again, he's off the tee as well. He's so good. I'm calling. I'm not going to say it because I love Finn, but if he was still fit, I would say I'd start him ahead of Finn at the minute.
No, mate, that's just nonsense.
You got to.
That's utter garbage.
How many kicks did Finn miss the last match? Tony Bellew kicks every single kick.
This is all right. We can get into this straight now, right? But Finn has been so harshly treated because he's just not got enough game at rugby to prove how good he is. End of last season, he was taking us to the Champions Cup final.
Oh no, I'm not saying
on the Lions tour.
He's just not in form, is he?
Yeah, but he went on the Lions tour, and now you're like, yeah, let's drop him for Tony Bellew. Like, Tony Bellew's a great player, but come on.
He's in form though. Pick players on form.
So what game? So we won the games whereby Finn has played this year. What are we saying? Is it Leicester and what was the other game where we won? So he's come back. He dropped back into the team, and we've beat Tigers, and we've beat whoever the other fixture was where Finn played. Can't think off the top of my head.
Trust me, I'm not saying he's just not in form at the minute. Tony Bellew off the tee is amazing. Look, he came on and he won that game against them up the road. You know he did. I know he wasn't playing fly half; he was at fullback, but just because he had the game time as well. That's what I'm saying. So I know you can get that, but
I no, like part of the game is to get these players back into form by giving them opportunities to play. You can't just like write Finn off because he's.
I didn't write him off. I didn't write him off. I just said while he's not in form, maybe just give him ease him in easily.
Yeah, I mean he played pretty well against Fiji? I mean Fiji aren't I know slacks, right? And he played quite well against them. I just think Tony Bellew is a good player, everything, right? He is a very good Premiership standard player. He'll do us a really good job in Europe. Finn is levels above, in my view, and I think that's reflected from the coach's opinions in the sense of if he's fit and he's back, he plays. I think he'll be available for the Bristol game, so I think he'll drop straight back in. But
it's probably a good job now as well, because if that's a hamstring strain, he could be out for a little while.
Yeah, it all depends on the severity of it. They won't mess about with it, I guess. I guess Ferbs is on the hook if as he's back now on the hook to play 10.
Yeah, it was good to see those two back, wasn't it? And they set one set up the other for a try, like the old days.
So the worst handling I've seen in a long time. Right, the ball to Furbank was abysmal, and then he gets it, and because he has to do a whole 360 turn, he throws it about a metre behind Ollie. But Ollie was never in doubt; he was always going to finish it. But it's like it wasn't that. It was just sort of get it out there rather than any sort of accuracy in the passing. But it was, it was great to see him linking up. Great to see him scoring as well, Sloan.
It's just mad to think that where we are in the table, unbeaten, top of the league, and you've got those two plus Rami, who was kicking at the half time, so he's obviously near fitness. They're all coming back in, and they're all international quality players to add to what we've already got. So it's looking good, hopefully. So we don't get any more injuries.
Yeah, just give you that boost just at that, those bring, because it's very hard to build that momentum and keep that momentum going. So if you can sprinkle players back in that are hungry as you go, it just keeps that push going, doesn't it?
Yep.
It's the same as last year. That Bristol game is such a weird time of year, isn't it? It's like that one Premiership standalone fixture
Yeah.
after the Autumn Nations before you go into Europe. It's like it's such an odd one. It's sort of it's so fundamental you have to win it, but
Yeah.
it's sort of not part of a group of games like you get with, you get like a group of four, or and then you get the Autumn, and then you get whatever. This one just seems a bit on its own, but we're not there yet, so we'll discuss that kind in the future. Who else, Jess? Who stood out for you on Saturday?
Um, I don't know if it's maybe just because he's ginormous, you can't not notice him. But
I know you're gonna say.
You got to talk about Tonga. I also thought, and I don't just mean it just because he's noticeable. I actually thought he was really good, like around the park.
Yeah.
That's a really exciting prospect, not least obviously because of who his dad is and the family connections. So there's like an excitement around that anyway. I just thought he looked really, really strong, like going around, and he's a big guy, but he's like a fit big guy, if that makes sense. He did a lot of running around, got involved a lot. There's still work to be done, of course. He's like 19. And yeah, I thought he was really strong in the scrum. So yeah, that's an interesting sort of prospect. It's hard, isn't it? Because like you said, the second half performance was like they just drifted further and further away. So it's kind of hard you have to kind of base it really on that first half. And I don't know if it's like the match and the matchup is like a fair indication of where all of those guys actually are. And you've also got to figure it's kind of a shame because for the Leicester game, I should imagine that we're going to go as strong as we can. So some of those are not going to necessarily feature again until the next batch, which must be when the Six Nations is, I guess. But yeah, I thought he looked really good. He stood out.
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought he was excellent, and yeah, I mean the fact that he can handle it at scrum time at that age
Yeah,
is remarkable, really. But then he was also really good, like you say, around the park, carried well, some big hits. I think they signed him very early, way earlier than you would normally sign an individual, and they always described him as a bit of a project, and he's not come through your classic. He came from, I think, he came through NSB, so he came from a
hmm
big, good local school and everything like that. But he's not necessarily the classic academy, senior academy sort of process. They seem to
yeah,
have identified him really early, and he's been a project for that. The only thing I would say is he was very mobile, but come the 50th minute, I mean, I thought it was
yeah,
time to get him off. He
yeah,
played almost the whole game. He played 70 odd minutes, and
yeah.
I mean, he was puffing. Like for the last
Yeah.
20 minutes he was on the pitch, he was working extremely hard to get up and down and get up and down the pitch, etc. But you could tell that he
Yeah.
he
I don't think
was not quite
it's
there.
not like fitness, is it? It's match fit. It's like a whole different beast, isn't it? And that's
Yeah,
probably the first time he's had to play for that length of time in like a good quality, and you're against a good quality side as well.
yeah,
You know,
definitely.
like it comparatively in that competition, right? A side that realistically is sort of above you actually in terms of like quality and ability. And so yeah, I just thought he really held his own. But yeah, I mean, quite a lot of them they were all quite a lot of them were a bit done. I think really after sort of
Yeah,
50. It's hard. It's just gonna be so hard to kind of mentally, physically, emotionally kind of try and keep yourself in something that realistically was sort of lost, before the final whistle. So, um, but yeah, I think like there were some players that I think Pater had really stood out the game before, and then he was on the wing this time, and then he also had to shift around a little bit. I still thought he looked really good. Um, looks like he could be a really interesting prospect. Um, and because obviously Hendy was away with England A, so it gives a couple of extra people a chance to slot in. So yeah, there was some sort of good first half performances. It was just a really hard thing to kind of get over the line, and yeah, the second half was. I wouldn't even say, to be honest, it was massively amazing quality from Newcastle. They got a couple of lucky interceptions, and I think that flattered the scoreline for them. I think the reality is, considering it's what they're probably first team and now what third, fourth, with a couple of first, second people in there. Like it's let's say it averages out as like a third team. I think the gaps were not as evident as the scoreline would perhaps suggest that they were.
no, I agree. Newcastle, like you said, Newcastle went pretty strong. There's a few obvious exceptions, the number
Yeah.
eight, etc. But they really weren't great for the the strength of the team. And I know they've actually brought a few new signings into that side, so I guess they're hoping to get them game time and get them firing, etc. But yeah, they were bearing in mind of how rotated and how many developing players we picked. The gap wasn't enormous, especially when we had the halfback in place and was running the show. Talking to Tonga as well, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that another Tonga, certain Hudson Tonga, was warming up as well. He's the I think he's the next cab along the rank, off from the Tonga clan. But I think that's who it was. I'm pretty confident he was there warming up and getting involved, etc. So the dynasty is starting, I think. The other players that sort of looked out good for me, I thought Toby Tang carried really well, and I mean he was asked to 10 for a little bit as well, and he did a good job. But then also line out Benson, RG Benson, mate, the guy's a phenomenal jumper.
He is. He's a unit as well, isn't he? I think he's comes from farmers stock, so you hit a lot of things. You're on about oh, did you just mention Toby Tane? He was a beast in defence as well. He was tackling everything. So yeah, he looks like a good prospect, that boy. It's nice to see, because like I say, we don't get to see the Wanderers anymore, do we? So in this competition, we get to see the young lads coming through, but the problem is we're producing so many quality players. We're not going to be able to keep them all, are we? That's the problem.
Oh yeah, there's no way. I mean, I think 2 years ago I said it was a Goldilocks season where we had all these youngsters coming through, and we also had the likes of Courtney and Waller still around as well. And we just had this phenomenally deep squad because it was sort of the old people just still around and the new ones are just starting to come through. I think we're almost in that sort of scenario again, whereby I think we'll be able to keep the elder statesmen, because I don't think any of them are, they're all looking to stay and build this team. But I think some of the youngsters coming through, it's going to be tough to keep them all, because, how do you convince Edo Todado, for example, that he's going to get enough game time when he's dealing with Slyto, Hendy, Freeman, etc., Rambo? You can't keep them all and can't promise him the times. Whereas if he went and played for, another club potentially, I hope he doesn't, but if he did, he'd start every week because he's absolutely class. So it's going to be tough, but the pressure sort of is almost this year to win something again, because you can't guarantee next year the squad's going to be better.
No.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah. I think that it's just it's a good problem to have, though, isn't it? At the end of the day, as weird as that sounds, like you said, and the reality is that we've got such a strong academy that that strong academy is always going to remain, even if certain people leave. And obviously we've kept the core, the group of core players that have re-signed this year is phenomenal, right? The people we've been, Finn staying, Dinger staying, Cole staying, etc. All of them signing on, Pollock signing on, you've got a really good group going forward, and we've still got a really good academy. I think that's always going to be there. So I think because we've just set it up so strongly, so we're always going to have really good depth, which is a really useful thing. But yeah, it's just, what would you rather have? Would you rather be, a team that doesn't have depth and has to rely on the same sort of 23? Would you rather have lots of people, but yes, you are going to have to lose some? And I think most people, pretty much everyone, would say the second, right? You need that depth at the end of the day. And yeah, of course, it's one of those things where sometimes you get someone in your academy, you make them into a really good player and they leave, but that's the game, isn't it? That's like Tarek Afar is a really good example of, built him up and then he moved on, which and that makes sense for certain players over others. So yeah, I think they obviously know going in, and I think Tadara is a really, really good example, because as good and as strong as he's been, if you have Hendy, Ram, Slights at 4 beans and at really high form and back from injury and everything, it just becomes really, really difficult. Whereas right now it's probably not the same level of difficulty, maybe. So yeah, it's just one of those things, isn't it, really? And you have to just weigh up what you want to do. And the reality is you're gonna keep your sort of longer standing through the academy English stars probably, and people are going to move on.
Yeah.
Tell you a player. Sorry, I was going to say, tell you a player. I can never say his name. I don't want to get it wrong. The Fijian, is it Kakasau?
Yeah, Kakasau.
Yeah, he
Like I
stood
said.
out. He looked, and he got the crowd like on his feet every time he got the ball because his little steps, his little like
Yeah.
runs. Yeah, he looked pretty decent. He took his try well as well. So
Yeah,
again, another winger that's fighting for a spot with Tordado and the others. So we're
Yeah.
pretty spoiled in the backs, aren't we? To be fair.
definitely. I mean, yeah, both wingers who started the game, I've seen their fathers play. So, I mean, and only at one point there were four sons of Saints playing on the pitch. On the pitch, you had Ethan at fullback for them, and then
Yeah.
Tonga Slytome, and Tonga like there was someone else. There was another son of I can't remember who it was, but yeah, we just seem to produce them, don't we? And then you look at the the autumn internationals, and Josh Lord was playing for the All
Yeah.
Blacks. Max Jorgensen was playing for the Wallabies. Yeah, there's just I've said it a million times before. There was something in the water in the early noughties in Northamptonshire. Um, but, I was going to say the thing with that though is you say like we've got such a good system and it's always producing talent. What it probably does put them in a position of and don't get me wrong, this isn't what I want to happen at all, but suddenly the management are having to make decisions as to whether they keep someone like Tadaro or Rambo, and the benefits of the play plus the cost of the squad and everything, and it's a great, like you said, a great position to be in. But it's
Yeah.
there's going to be players that we're going to be very sorry to see leave at some point, I think. But anyway,
I think sometimes you've also got the fact that some of them obviously aren't from here either. So, take Scott Young as an example, like absolutely hated to lose him. But sometimes like your question almost your sort of like decision gets made for you because somebody wants to go home. And
yeah,
that, and I'm not saying that's what Tadaro or Ram want now, or even if they're going to want it in the future. But you've got to assume it's probably going to factor into their own decisions at some point. So sometimes like that decision actually just gets taken away from you. So if you think about some of the people we've got around 6, 7, and 8, and we were thinking, how do all these people work? How does Scott Young get in even on the bench there? And then he sort of removes himself from the equation and it makes it a little bit simpler, even though you really don't want to lose a player of his ability and his level. And he's just signed, isn't he, for the Waratahs. So, I'm really happy he's got a team over there and someone has noted, how good he is. Yeah, but sometimes it comes sort of out of the equation. So, Ram is from Australia, has an Australian family, they're all stood in Australia. For all we know, in a few years, he's ready to head home. And all of a sudden, you've got one less person in the equation, and maybe there's someone in the academy that you can promote or is going to get more game time simply because of that.
yeah, 100%. Especially it's with the Aussies as well. It's ingrained into their culture that you go and spend a few years in Europe. So it's no different in any industry, whether whatever industry you work in. If you're a rugby player, you go and spend a couple of years while you're here every week, every time opportunity you get, you go and see far-flung bits of Europe, etc. But
Yeah,
I also do think that, especially with Scott Young and potentially with Rambo, but if you're not a regular playing every week, guaranteed you're starting, that suddenly thinks, why am I halfway around the world away from my family not to
yeah,
be
Yeah.
yeah,
starting every week, right? So it becomes a human thing, doesn't it? Like they're human beings. They're not,
yeah, yeah,
names on
100%.
spreadsheets. They're human beings, and they're going to make human decisions off the back of that.
Yeah,
Totally. Yeah. Makes sense. They're not journeymen either. They came young, so that's the thing. Sometimes you get the ones in their 30s that come over and finish their career for a bit of money, but but you never know. Rambo might get ambitions. He was in the England reckoning at one point. He's
Yeah,
yeah,
qualified, isn't he?
exactly.
So
Yeah,
he could, if he gets
yeah,
back fit. There's not
yeah.
many. There's not many that can jump as good as him, other than that young lad at Sarries.
Yeah,
he just, if he gets in the Saints team and playing every week, he's got every chance of doing anything he wants to do. It's a tough old ask, isn't it?
yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway, talking of England ambitions, should we discuss the England performance? I mean, I have to probably eat a bit of humble pie. I mean, I think George Ford weren't too bad, was he?
No, unfortunately,
It was one
no.
of, I got to say though, it exactly matched up with what you said. Though. It's like we were good for really good for the first like what 5, 10 minutes, and then we weren't for the next 20, and we weren't good, and he wasn't good. And then as soon as we got the upper hand, he was. So it's like you said, it's like I don't know if he specifically did anything to change the complexion of the match, but once the complexion did change, his performance was like masterful. I'll be honest, like it was fantastic. Like, oh, what a
It
game!
was
It was such a good
it was
game.
the
Like,
it was, basically Borthwick's nicked Razzy's ideas, and he's built what's been called the Pom squad, but it's incredibly effective, isn't it? So when
Very
that
effective, yeah.
bench came on and England had utter dominance, yeah, like you said, Ford was just, like you said, flying. It's almost worth thinking maybe you have him as part of the Pom squad. Come on when the forwards come on, so he gets a bit of front football. But he, yeah, like I didn't think that the first drop goal was the right option, based on the context of the game. But what do I know? Like, so he obviously, it was a great kick regardless. But yeah, he mastered the ship well, and some of the Saints boys, if we focus on them, I mean, Dingwall, absolute rocks there.
Yeah.
I think there was like easily his best game in an England shirt, but I think outside of that, like I actually just think an incredible performance from him and Lawrence. Like that centre partnership really, really worked well. And because you're thinking about where people are gonna be in the future, like when Tommy comes back, you can't help but think that like if the Dingwall Lawrence partnership is going to work like that, then Freeman is going to be a winger. Even though I know he said in the or maybe even a fullback.
Just how do you drop?
Ferbs will be back by then.
Yeah, but how do you drop Tom Roebuck?
Yeah,
I'd say, I wouldn't say you dropped Tom Roebuck. I think Manny's been fine. I wouldn't say he's been particularly standout. So maybe that's where it changes. Like I said, maybe it comes to fullback. They've got decisions to make, definitely. But obviously, it also depends what happens next week. Like if I'm assuming they're both going to be the centre partnership against Argentina, and they play like that again, it becomes very hard to argue for another centre partnership. Like it just worked absolutely fantastically. They just seemed to really, really gel together. They absolutely brought the best out of each other, and I think Ford helped bring the best out of them as well as it continued. Like, yeah, his performance was. It was a shame that sort of. It's a shame in a way because like, Lawrence obviously does the big flashy stuff, which you expect. He's a big guy, big ball carrier, and I think Dingwall has never been that. And I think like they were talking about in commentary, like the fact that he hasn't tried to be that is what's worked to his strengths. Like they're very, very different, so they complement each other very well. But it was kind of a shame when they were talking about man of the match and they picked out Lawrence over Dingers, and I would say actually I think Dingers was more influential personally, overall in terms of the elements of the game. But yeah, a fantastic game. Like, I thought Mitchell, other than one bad kick that Mitchell had, he was class, like from start to finish. Even just those two passes to Ford for the drop goals were like pinpoint accurate, like exactly where Ford needed them to be in the right position. Like, I thought he was absolutely class as well.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, going back to Dingwall Lawrence, I mean, Lawrence almost gets pigeonholed because of people think he's Tuolagi, and he's not. He isn't the blunt force that Tuolagi was. He's so athletic, so fast, got such a good change of pace, hits a gap, got an amazing step on him. Right, he is an out and out outside centre in my view. I don't see him as a workhorse 12, which people want to push him into being. He's a X Factor player in that 13 channel, and Dingwall brings the best out of him. It was. I mean, it was nice that Lawrence actually did the to the line pass one for Dingwall to hit the line. That was nice. But and then like you say, Mitchell's key strength is his pace of ball, but he's so accurate, and it's such an underrated skill set at scrum at rugby generally. No one talks about the accuracy of the scrum half passing. I mean, that was the discussion we had around him versus he's the Kiwi who plays Gibson Park. That was my the discussion we had was Gibson Park's a tremendous player, but his passing is nowhere near as accurate as Mitchell's. Mitchell's is 10 out of 10 perfect every single ball, whereas it might be as quick, but it's a bit all over the place, and that has a knock-on effect along the line, because people are getting the ball like the slide home try against Red Bulls at the weekend. It was all over. None of the passing wasn't, and that because it wasn't clean from the start, so it wasn't clean to the finish. Whereas Mitchell gives you that clean pass from the get go every single time. He is a sensation.
I do think if you hadn't have had Farrell as head coach, you might have got Mitchell playing more of the tests, starting. So obviously he's going to pick what he knows and sees week in, week out. And you mentioning the Saints boys, we haven't mentioned a special one. Did you see him licking his lips against the hacker? That was hilarious. He's like, I'm ready for this.
What was he doing?
Ready for this.
I think
He's
he was
a
just
unique
genuinely
character,
like.
isn't
I think he was
You are.
just in. He was just like in a zone that like nobody was going to be able to penetrate. I'm not even sure he was fully convinced that he knew what was happening. Like he was just up for it, wasn't he? And that's what you want. It's the All Blacks.
Yeah.
If you can't get if you can't get up for a game like that, then what's the point? Like I mean, he loves obviously everything. Like come on, but yeah, it's like when we talked about before. Like sometimes it's not even that he comes on and does something incredible, but it's just the energy boost, and it seems to work no matter who he plays around and what team he's in. It works for Saints. It seems to work for England. Like, and I still don't get why people buy into this narrative of oh his teammates don't like him. I said you must be watching something else because I'm pretty sure they do. Like based
Yeah,
on interactions like in the previous game when Roebuck had put the ball up and he picked it up and scored a try and he was like I wanted it to be anyone but him. Like they have that kind of energy, and then obviously he kicks it through and Roebuck gets one back this week. Like there's a very good relationship there between the two of them for some reason. But I mean, like I remember we won, like the first person that I told you went over to hug was Pollock. Like there's definitely a much better relationship that people seem to decide he's annoying so nobody can like him, but I think they all understand what it is that he brings and how it kind of lifts the energy of the rest of them. And then it just turns out that he just does really good stuff as well. Like he should have been pinged for a couple of things, definitely, in some of those moves. But that coming off the scrum before the ball, etc. Like, and he definitely blocked that player's channel. But at the end of the day, if you get away with it, you get away with it. And he still accidentally, I should add, kicked the ball into a perfect place for Roebuck to pick up and score a try. So you just can't. It's like the commentator said. They said even when things haven't technically gone right, they just work out for him at the moment. And I think it was really telling of. Like I don't buy into Austin Healey having a Northampton Saints bias or anything, but everyone else seems to. But I think it's really telling that he said that he used to say quite consistently that like Mackenzie was he thought the best impact sub in the world, and he's changed his mind. He thinks it's Pollock, just from what he's seen over this period, and obviously some of the stuff he did when it was in the Six Nations. So like, that's pretty high praise from an ex-pro that like he thinks he's one of the world's best impacts. And I don't know if anybody would disagree with that at the minute, to be honest with you.
No, I mean
maybe Henry, because he'd want to be starting. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
It was great to see, and people say you should respect the haka, but I do love the fact they challenged it again. The one thing it does my head in, and I get why the crowd do it, is they sing "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot." But if you've never seen it live, it drowns it out. It is quite a thing to see, but they're putting down their challenge, so England were like, we're putting down ours. So I do get it. And Pollock, I still see him now licking his lips. He's just like, I'm having you. I'm having you. I remember
just brilliant. A few years ago when we first did the semicircle thing, because we've done it the past sort of few times we've played them. Like, I remember we got fined, and I think even the New Zealand press were like, why? Like, this is a challenge. There's supposed to be a response. Like, obviously, like you get different teams that have had different opinions in the past, right? Some like teams have said like we'd rather you just respected it, but this definitely seems to be a New Zealand team that kind of likes that it's being sort of challenged back, as it was like they even came forward in the line. That they must have been fairly close to each other at the end. It just added to a whole sort of atmosphere to it.
The fine is because they went past the halfway line, which
went past the halfway line,
they're not supposed to, which is rubbish. Yeah. But like rubbish. I would say that like it should some of the best moments ever watching the haka are when you see the proper challenge and Greening getting face to face and Chabal and whatever. They were amazing. I mean, I thought that I commented on it when I was watching it that it wasn't one of the tidiest hackers I've ever seen. Like when you see it and it's in perfect synchronicity and then there's just power like falling out of it. It's just such a sight. But they seem to be like lose their shape and they're a bit like one half of it seemed to like come up to England and like come on there, and the other half didn't, and it like I don't know. I think the power is the unity with them. When they start taking it individually, it's not the same spectacle. But then that makes it unique. That one particular hacker is unique because of
that particular one.
But,
yeah.
It's
just so funny when they started moving, and I was like, Henry's at one end of this thing, like. And I think Jamie George said, hadn't they, that they wanted like one of the younger players on one end of it, and obviously he's got to be the youngest in that squad still. Out of them all,
he will be.
And I was also like, it's an obvious choice to have him at one end of it, right? Like the person that responds to like everything, that kind of gets up and gets involved in everything. I was like, that was the perfect choice in my mind. But in the situation where, like, obviously we've talked about it before, so I don't really want to talk about it too much. But at this point, like, like the sort of hate towards him. I think it's just people doing it just for the sake of doing it at this point. Like they've fully just bought into that narrative and they can't kind of change their mind. Um, but there's a lot more people seem to be sort of coming round to what it is that he actually brings. I mean, you come on and you play really well against the All Blacks. Like that's something to be like applauded at this point. And so mainly it's just and I don't really know why, but mainly underneath all these posts, it's mainly just Springbok supporters. I'm like, you're the best team in the world. You should have other things to be thinking about. Like, why is this 20-year-old kid forefront in your mind when you're double World Cup winners, just won another game? That itself had its own controversy. Like, focus on something else. Like, why is this kid in your head? But yeah, it certainly does. I do agree though. I kind of wish that's who we were playing next. Don't get me wrong, that Argentina game's going to be really physical, and they're still going to be a really, really good game. But you can't help but feel you kind of wish it was South Africa.
Yeah, I mean, I bet England wish it would be South Africa,
Yeah.
because I think they probably they're coming off on a bit of form at the moment, and now would be the time to play them. But yeah, like I mean, I said the same thing as well. Like Pollock is everything he touches turns to gold at the moment. Even when he, shins it off his 50p shin and it goes in completely the wrong direction, and it still ends up being the perfect assist. And he's just like you said, the attitude is it's unique. He is who he is, and he's completely different to anyone else. But the energy and the enthusiasm, the clear love he's got for it is infectious. He's a superstar in the making, but he's a special player.
We're just lucky we've got him at Saints, and all he's doing is making rugby bigger and bigger because everyone's listening, talking, reading about him. It's just going to make the game more public, isn't it? So long may it continue, because the boy, he's 20. He's like 8 to 9 years away from his prime. What's he going to be like then? If we've still got him, hopefully, fingers crossed, because he's just insane now. The energy
thinking about, does it?
It's the energy he brings. Like you said, his energy is insane, and it's not over the top. That's just him. Whether I'm not dissing it, whether he's got ADHD or something, but he's always on it, isn't he? He's super late. I'm going to have this.
There's definitely probably an element of that.
When you hear Primo and Finn and that talk about him, I think Finn roomed with him on the Lions tour, and he just said,
yeah, he's
just annoying. He loves him, but he's annoying. He never shuts up. And yeah, that's him. And he, like you said, Charles, he loves the game as well. He just loves playing rugby. So yeah, I love the boy, and yeah, one day probably future Saints captain, I'd say.
And to be honest, if he does have something like, I can't remember if he had talks about that he does have it. I feel like he maybe has confirmed that before, but I can't remember, so I don't know.
I think so, but I don't want to confirm. Yeah.
No, but I don't want to
confirm.
Want to
say nothing. It's just that's just from someone with similar traits. I know exactly what it's like. Right?
Yeah, but like, let's just say he does. Like, what a way to turn it into like a genuine superpower for yourself.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Like, because like, I mean, I just, even when like he's come on and like they've been losing, like it doesn't dim a single thing about him, which is like a really unique place to be. Like, that's a difficult thing to do, I think, to kind of always be like upbeat and positive, and that there's still a way to turn something around if it's not going your way. And like, there'll be a lot of players that will probably admit that like that's a difficult thing to do, to get yourself in that headspace. Like when you're playing on an international stage, obviously not necessarily for the All Blacks game because we were only 1 point behind, so I think we were in a good position that one. But there's definitely going to be games where you're not, and he's got to come on at 50 minutes and they might be 10, 12 points down, let's say, for example, and you just know he'll come on in exactly the same way, which I think is actually really unique sort of in the game at the moment. Like, of just like, I mean, even just before he comes on, he's jumping up and down, he's slapping his shoulders, and he's just so up for it. But yeah, I've said before, like it's got to just be essentially a simple case of like, it's impossible for the rest of the team to ignore it. And so it's like, well, if he's at this level, we've got to match this. We simply have to match this. And I think this is not going to be the first or last time, because he's come on and been like that and he's won us games. He's won England games, and I don't think that's going to be the last time that will happen. But it's kind of, again, what makes me laugh about the sort of online commentary of like, oh, he's very sort of cocky for someone that hasn't backed it up. I said, you must not be watching what I'm watching then, because so far I've seen him back it up in every single game. So how many does he have to do before that narrative switches? Like, he scored, 2 tries in his first 30 minutes of international rugby. It's mental. It's mental.
Yeah. There is still a long way to go, but yeah, everything he's delivered has been outstanding.
But that's that goes back to what Simon said though. You think of how far away he is off his peak.
Yeah.
I find it, assuming that, touching every piece of wood in my house that like nothing happens to him and like, you know, no injuries happen and things like that. You just got to assume that like, assuming he continues on the trajectory of where he is, where he's going to be in sort of 8-9 years time is wild. Like I don't see how he's not going to be one of the best we've ever seen if this is what he's already producing at 20. And I don't want to say that to like pile any pressure on him, but also I'm not sure he feels pressure at this stage
He'd
like
love
as
it.
everyone
No,
else.
he'd take it.
So
He'd take it all day long.
but you got to think how he's gonna, yeah, like how he's going to play when he's like 25, 26, 27, like when you're supposed to be sort of like, and 28 when you're like at your best. Like if we can keep hold of him, I think we're going to have like one of the world's best players.
Oh, 100%. I mean, all it's doing though, what, to be honest with you, watching Saints boys doing so well. I mean, Alex Cole as well needs to be included at that list, but doing so
Yeah,
well on the
definitely.
international scene. And you know, the fact that we didn't necessarily, because of the start of the season with the Lions and all this sort of stuff, I feel, and then with the injuries of Slights and Verbs, I feel like I'm really missing watching the best Saints team play week in, week out.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it doesn't seem like we've till the end of last season, and even then we had all these injuries. You
yeah,
know, at the end of the year, I can't wait to see, you know, a back line, Mitchell, Finn, Dingers, Hutch, Slights, Furbank, Freeman play
yeah,
a run of 4 games, and or you know, it just feels like a long time since we've, you know, and then and with Pollock in and with Coles in, and you know, then you had Chick who's you know into that group that was so good last year and previous years. Like I don't feel we've seen anywhere near Saints at their best yet, and that team in its at its best is such a phenomenal privilege to watch at the moment. It's just
yeah.
it's becoming even more of a privilege because we're not getting it that often. You know,
Yeah,
but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm hoping maybe in Europe we'll get it a couple of them, but
yeah, I think, yeah,
hopefully
I hope so.
at some point we're going to
Yeah,
get a
because
good
you've got to
one of
think of
this
like,
team.
you've got to think like Ferguson and Slights, for example, like are going to play in the next 2 games, right? Like they're obviously going to increase how much they play. So you've got to think by Europe, hopefully they're in a good position. We get, you know, we've got all these people back. Hopefully, I mean, I know, I can't remember what they said Tommy's injury was. Was it hamstring related?
I don't think it was. I
Can't
think it was a
remember.
knee. I think it was a
So
knee
yeah,
issue.
it was something in the leg. I know that's as far as my knowledge goes, like the leg. But he did do that kind of dancing video with the other three lads with Finn, Pollock, and Stewart. So I think he's all right. I think it's like a precautionary thing. So you've got to think, you know, when he comes back, it should also hopefully be all right. So he should be going. He should be playing, and yeah, it definitely should hopefully be a really exciting European campaign because obviously we've got it a bit tougher this year in terms of the rankings once you get through the pools and stuff. So yeah, it'd be really good to see all of them finally back together again. But like you can't rule like what they've been doing for England as well. Like I said, he had like Coles. I think the line out had a few difficulties, and I don't attribute that to Coles specifically. I think the whole thing was just a bit of a mess. But outside of that, he's always really, really good around the park. I still think he's a really strong player.
He was
Um,
excellent. I thought he really was.
yeah,
He was
no, I do. Yeah, 100%.
unlucky not to score. I think his technique could have been a bit better at that moment.
Yeah. Oh
But
well,
he was,
that in terms of unlucky to score as well, Mitchell definitely scored.
yeah, he did.
He definitely scored,
You
and
know,
I was just like, it was like that close to two Saints players scoring like in one game. Oh, well, that would have been fantastic. But he also went to Underhill in the end, and he made the smart choice. Like Mitchell obviously knew it hadn't been seen, and you never know if it's going to get seen on the cameras or not because when there's a lot of people around. So he knew to recycle it and give them another chance. So that was, you know, a smart option in the moment. And then yeah, again, some people outside of obviously it wasn't unfortunately a great game for Hutchison or Miller Mills in terms of the result of that one. I thought Hutchison was playing really well. So it was a bizarre choice to bring him off, in my personal opinion. But you know, we might be slightly biased.
no, I
But
agree. I don't see the point in bringing Stain into the midfield when
no,
you know I think Hutchinson was playing really well.
yeah,
They just illogical. I don't really understand it, but I still think that they don't get anywhere near the best out of Hutch. Hutch, you know, he doesn't take the ball at first receiver and flat to the line. Like that's his super skill.
yeah,
why are they not using it?
yeah,
It's if you're gonna do that, then I understand why they've not been picking him to some, even though he's been amazing for them. But if you don't see him bringing his best skill to the game,
yeah,
you're not going to use him for
yeah,
that. Then it's sort of like, oh, okay, right, maybe you'd be better off picking someone a bit bigger outside of him. I don't know, but it's just yeah, it's
yeah,
an odd one. But he's been really good, and
yeah,
like I said, it's another player I just can't wait to see him back in green, black, and gold. Even though he's been really good this year, he's been one of our best players this season. I just can't wait to get them all back playing rugby.
Yeah, but you got to assume he's
getting
probably.
involved.
Yeah, he's not going to be involved straight up, is he? Because that's quite a lot of time for Scotland in the end, isn't it? Assuming he plays in the net. Who are they playing next? I can't remember off the top of my head. Can't remember. But
Scotland, don't they have? I don't know actually. Sorry, Australia.
There's no rule though, is
France.
there? There's no rule because it's not like
There's no
the thing,
requirement.
so we can have him straight back.
no. But it's just a case of like, has he played a lot of? He's played a lot for Saints, then played a lot for. Are they just gonna be the kind of team that just gives him a week before? Considering who we could have back in that time, like with Ferb Slights, maybe a couple of other people like that could be in the centre, like Litchfield, for example. Like maybe there's a way that he still won't. But yeah, there isn't. But I think player welfare is still an important thing, even if there isn't any specific rule on him as a player. You still want to be kind of careful.
Yeah, or to get the best out of him throughout the season. There's no point burning him out now.
No.
But
They're playing Tonga next, so he
Tonga
may or may not. Who knows? I don't know.
may or may not. Yeah, I mean they
Yeah.
might actually get a win, but they've been so close.
Yeah.
But then looking ahead to that, so going into the fixture on Friday night, the Tigers game. Let's get back to Saints on that side of things. We sort of, we've said a few times that we're guessing that we'll probably go as strong as we can v them for one reason, but then also to build into the Bristol game. Part of me thinks that that's not how necessarily the management see it. They see, this tournament as a development tournament, and therefore they might go with a similar side to what we've seen. But like you said, if you're going to go into that Bristol game and you're not going to play, or you might not be able to play Dingwall, and you might not be able to play Hutchinson from a do the best by him sort of route, you're going to need Litchfield fit and firing. So you've got to imagine he's going to come in and play in his prime position. It's like, those sort of players who need to step up but haven't really played.
The issue is like Bristol have been a bogey team for us for the past couple of seasons. I think you go in undercooked at your peril, really. Like, to be honest, and like they're in a situation where I don't really know much outside of England. Like, have they lost a huge amount of players? They don't normally.
Yeah. That's the thing with Bristol.
Yeah.
They've had the worst run of injury luck.
Yeah.
Like the number of serious injury. Randall out, AJ McGinty out, Ibatoya out. It depends how recent Dammit comes out of the test series, etc. But all the tests, etc. They've had an enormous number of missing something similar to what we were at the end of the year, like 30 players or something. So it's a good time to play them. But it's a like you said, they're a bit of a bogey side.
Yeah. So
I just hope against them up the road we go strong, because it doesn't matter what it is; it's still a derby game. And you always remember the ones away from home if you get a win. So will they send the boys that got beat by Newcastle? I don't know, because they've had a few weeks off now. Like your big, I've forgotten his name. What's the big South African? JJ. Yeah, you got Chick. They've all had a few weeks off. They're going to be a bit. I know they needed it because they've played every week, but they're going to need to have a bit of a warm up, even if they're on the bench.
Yeah, because that's a long time, isn't it? When you put the weeks together of like you haven't seen. I mean, Lockett he played one game for England A, didn't he? So did Hendy and like McParlin and etc.
Lockett's injured.
But otherwise you've got sort of like like a period of time that some of those people, like I said, like a JJ, Callum Chick, etc. that just they've already not played for 2-3 weeks. It will then be another 2 weeks on top by the time you hit the Bristol game. That's too long, in my view. So I get what they may view it as a development competition, but I feel like that would be a mistake if they didn't go, even though you obviously end up risking. You have to take. I just think you have to take the risk, because otherwise, I think every game matters in the Prem as well at this point. Like we're at the top, and if you want to keep hold of those positions where you can, or keep yourself as up there as you need wins. But yeah, it's hard to know what they'll do. Really, we'll either be surprised or we won't be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. But also then, if you're looking to develop the likes of Henry Lumley and Pater and Tonga Weir, etc., then giving them a derby match, like I said, it's always a derby match, but giving them a derby match in this cup is a phenomenal experience for them to as well. And it might be that there's a mixed and a balance between the two.
I think it might end up being more balanced than what we saw last weekend, yeah, and maybe a few more sort of first teamers like coming into the bench, so at least they get 30 minutes or something potentially. You can give like you said, your Paters, your Thames, your Tonga Weirs, etc. You can give all of them sort of maybe 50 minutes in that derby environment, and then you bring. I mean, I'm assuming at this point that Ferbs and Slights are going to start because they obviously want to get minutes into them, so that they're going to be involved certainly. Obviously, Bello is a big question mark. So, it's a question mark of what happens at 10, really, because I don't think Ferbs has got enough time in him in a game yet that he can be a 10 necessarily. I suppose he could, but yeah, it's a question of sort of what happens there in particular.
Well, he might have to, yeah.
Yeah, so he might have to. But then, like you said, he's still in a position that he's probably going to come off after 40, maybe 50 at a push.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, then, yeah. They'll know his fitness levels and what he needs, etc.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you think like units. Who's going to start at hooker against Bristol? Is it Liam? Not Liam. Is it Craig Wright? Maybe, and therefore he starts with Munger and JJ, so that you get some continuity in your line out, which can build into the Bristol game. Mitchell won't be available for that Bristol game because he's played every minute of every game pretty much. He's played in every match. Finn might, so Finn might come straight back into the Bristol game. Yeah. But
I think Coles would have played a lot, won't he? Essentially,
you have to have played in every game to
everyone. Has he played in every? Has he played in every one so far?
I don't think he has. No.
I couldn't remember if he was a bench player in the first one, or if he wasn't involved at all.
I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember, but
no, I can't remember.
But yeah, so that's the thing. If they play in every game, they have, even if they don't make it on the pitch, they have to have a break in one of the 3 games.
Yeah.
After that, so they'll take the Bristol one because the next 2 are Champions Cup. But or they might not. They might decide to rest players against Poe. Who knows? Prioritize the Prem maybe. But and then you have the question of the England A boys. Do Hendy and Ayogan, etc., drop straight back in, or do you give them the week?
What happened to Pearson?
So he's played in the All Black, second one. Then away at Spain, they put out a much younger side.
Okay, because he was at the Gardens he was at the Gardens. I didn't know if he got injured. I hadn't read anyway.
No, he just wasn't. He wasn't selected. They just picked a very different looking. Like you said, like Hendy not playing in the previous one, and then he played in that one. Like they're just trying some different. Scored a try as well, so that's good.
They want to. The whole point of that England A squad is basically to build the players who are very successful at England under 20 level together to give them game time to build them. They think they had a very good group, and so they want to keep that group together. And sending Tom Pearson to play against Spain, I mean, I don't think that's valuable for anyone involved, is it?
No, I was just checking he wasn't injured. That was all.
No. Tom Lockett is injured though and had a knee brace on, so I don't know what the severity of it is, but it's not looking good.
Yeah, so you've got to figure that you can drop Pearson back in or have him as a bench maybe, but because I think there are some players I think Finn Brown's been really good. You already mentioned Benson. There's some players in and around there that maybe they deserve to have another starting shot against Leicester. Really just it's really one of those kind of impossible to predict ones, just because we're not in the inner sanctum, and they will have their own ways of thinking about it, and they'll make a decision based on what's best for sort of everyone involved. And that could be different ways, like full strength side, it could be half and half, more like what we saw last week. And really, I think all of those 3 options are on the table for them at this point. So yeah, it's one of those where if it was a Prem game, you'd pick everyone. We'd know.
I thought Munger had a great game, but he wasn't. I don't know if you listened to the ref link. He wasn't the ref's friend. He just kept saying to him, he was in the ref's ear complaining. He's like, well, I can't give you something if you keep complaining at me or shouting at me. So I don't know what was happening that night. These captains.
They were all right. They were all right in the second half, because he said something and Manya was like, I'm really sorry, and then he'd gone up to the ref a few minutes later and said, I'm really sorry. So I think they were on better terms as the game went on, but they certainly were not at the beginning. But yeah.
Munger's an interesting player coming back into this sort of selection decisions as well, because he obviously had a bad injury I think it was in the Glasgow game he got injured and therefore missed pretty much the bulk of the beginning of the season. But he's another player who will be challenging for play. For starting, or coming in good form, keen going into this next block. Whether whether realistically he's gonna start is, I'm sure he thinks he can challenge, but it's a tough ask to push out Coles and JJ. But then with Lockett seemingly injured, it's another body coming back into fire that adds great quality to the squad. So it's it's a great place to be. But anyway, you said about it's hard to predict, so let's do some predictions.
Well, we should talk about last week's though, because I feel like maybe I won.
You won.
We just go by the weather.
I'm going to call it
It
default.
was awful weather, wasn't it? So if I'd looked at the weather, I would not have gone that high.
Well, yeah, but we all got the score wrong.
Yeah, so I think I got try scorer though, didn't I?
You got the try scorer, so you won by the tie break basically with a slight scan try.
Yeah.
So yeah, you are on the board with a 1-0 win that week. So it's 2-1 overall with Cy on 2, Jess on 1, me not yet to score. The week before that, well, the prediction before that was no one got anything, so I just ignored it.
No one got anything, yeah, exactly.
Right, so let's go with
you go first then. You go first, Charles, because you haven't yet, and you don't have any points, so it feels fair.
Right, it's gonna be it's like you said, it's such a difficult one to predict, but I'm not predicting us to lose, that's for sure. Although we probably will. And I'm going to go with a tighter game, 28-19, and the try scorer will be, let's go with Slights.
Is that to Saints?
No, 1928. Yeah, so you're right, yeah. I chose the Saints score first, but that was wrong of me.
Yeah.
Simon, do you want to go Sorry then?
Okay, I'll go 21-27, and I can't ever say that they're going to beat us, even if I think they might. Who should I go for a try? I'll go James.
James, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can't say that they'll. I think I'm the only one of the three of us to potentially predict that we might lose a fixture, and it was hard to do that. But there's no way in the world I'd predict this one we lose.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the head's saying.
I'll go. 18-24.
Right.
Who should I pick to score?
That's the same margin as Sai.
Oh, is it? Okay, I'll go. That's all right. I'll go 18-23. Oh, 23. I'll bring us down by 1. 18-23. Right. And I'll go for. I just don't know who's gonna. Well, I'll take Ferbs this week. We'll swap over.
Ferbs.
I'll take
no
Ferbs.
Worries. Yeah. Well. Yeah, it's a shame. I'm not going, unfortunately. But
no, neither.
I bet if people on the edge, I can tell you it'll be a great game to go and watch. I'm sure. But I bet it'll be entertaining. It's always good to go up there and watch a game of rugby. So, yeah, it's a shame I'm missing it, and it's annoying that none of this stuff is televised. It's a big annoyance to me. When you got championship,
They had one on YouTube last week as like the first one they've had like on YouTube, because I think people want to see it. So maybe they'll pick ours this week if they are still going to go ahead with that.
Cool. Well, if we
because you got to figure it's the best matchup out of the.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, if people see that, let's get that out there. If we see that, we'll let you know. But anyway, thanks everyone much for listening. It's been another interesting chat. I've been Charles. Simon's been Simon. Jess has been Jess. Thank you very much.
Goodbye.